The stars had always been humanity's promise. For centuries, humans had spread across the galaxy, claiming distant planets, building thriving colonies, and creating a network of trade and knowledge that stretched like a web between the suns. Humanity had thought itself invincible, believing that intelligence, courage, and determination could overcome any threat. But no one had predicted the Xylar Dominion. The first attack came without warning. Out of nowhere, massive Xylar warships entered human space. They were immense, black as the void, shaped like jagged shards of crystal that seemed to absorb light. Humanity's defense fleet scrambled to respond, but the Xylars were faster, stronger, and far more coordinated than any human admiral had ever imagined. In hours, entire colonies fell, cities burned. Millions were lost in a storm of plasma fire and collapsing buildings. Commander Elena Voss watched the destruction from the bridge of the Aurora's Edge, one of the few remaining human flagships in orbit above Solaria, humanity's richest colony. Her hands gripped the railing tightly, knuckles white. She had trained her whole life for combat, for strategy, for leadership. But nothing could prepare her for this. Nothing could prepare anyone. Status report. Elena's voice cut through the chaos of alarms and the frantic shouting of officers. Command. The Xylars are moving faster than predicted, replied Lieutenant Marr, his face pale. Our fleet is disintegrating under their assault. Casualties are extreme. Multiple colonies already offline. Elena's stomach twisted. Casualties weren't just numbers. They were friends, families, and citizens she had sworn to protect. And yet she had to think fast. The Dominion wouldn't give humanity a chance to regroup if she did not act immediately. Initiate evacuation protocols, she ordered. Send civilians to the jump gates. Protect as many as we can, and get me the council. We need a plan. Even as she spoke, the bridge shook violently. Another salvo of Xylar energy beams struck the colony below. The city of Solaria's capital was vaporized in an instant. Tens of thousands were gone before they could even blink. Elena felt a pang of grief that she pushed down, forcing herself to focus on the immediate threat. Humanity's survival depended on it. It was then the Dominion made its cruelest move. They had studied humanity, learned its weaknesses, and decided to break it in the most ruthless way possible. The Xylar commanders transmitted a message to every human settlement that still survived. 9 million women were to be executed. The decree was meant to devastate the species, to make the rest of humanity helpless and despairing. By targeting half of the population, they hoped to ensure humans would never rise again. Elena read the message on the bridge screen. The words seemed to burn themselves into her mind. Humanity will end. You are declared extinct. Resistance is futile. Her jaw clenched. Humanity might have been beaten, but it was far from extinct. Not yet. Not while she lived. She turned to Marr. We do not accept this. Humanity will survive no matter what they try. Plot a course to the outer colonies. We will warn them, prepare them, save as many as we can. The evacuation was chaotic. Ships launched in every direction, packed with refugees and fleeing soldiers. But the Dominion's fleet was everywhere. Entire jump lanes were blocked. Even the fastest transports risked being obliterated before reaching safety. The human fleet fought valiantly, using every trick, every maneuver, every weapon at their disposal. But for every Xylar ship destroyed, 10 more arrived. Amid the chaos, Elena's mind raced. She had trained for war, yes, but nothing could teach the pain of losing millions of innocent lives. Her personal losses were heavy. Her sister, a leading scientist in Solaria, had been among the first taken by the Dominion. Her closest friends, her comrades in arms, were falling all around her. And yet she refused to yield. Humanity's spirit, fragile as it seemed at that moment, was not yet broken. As the fleet retreated toward the outer rim, a transmission came in from one of the colonies they had failed to save. The message was fragmented, filled with static and desperation. Elena strained to hear it. They executed millions. Women, all gone. No hope. Save yourselves. The message cut off. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself feel the horror and sorrow before opening them again. The Xylars wanted humanity to despair, but despair was a luxury they could not afford. Survival demanded action, strategy, and courage. It demanded hope, even in the darkest night. Elena convened a council on the Aurora's Edge. Generals, scientists, and leaders from surviving colonies gathered, their faces etched with grief and fear. The council chambers were tense, voices trembling as they discussed humanity's bleak future. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena began, her voice steady and commanding despite the fear surrounding her, "the Xylar Dominion wants us dead. They want to erase us from the galaxy. They think executing millions of women will destroy us, break our spirit, and ensure we never rise again. They are wrong. Humanity survives not because of numbers, but because of will, intelligence, and unity. We will not die in despair. We will fight." The room was silent for a moment. Her words, strong and unwavering, began to ignite something inside those present. Hope, determination, a will to survive. Slowly, one by one, nods of agreement appeared. Plans began to take shape. Evacuation routes, hidden bases, guerrilla strategies. Humanity's remnants would disappear into the stars like ghosts, but they would live to fight another day. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Dominion continued their campaign of terror. Colonies burned, fleets were destroyed, and the 9 million women were taken in a methodical, horrifying wave of cruelty. The universe watched, and humanity's name was whispered as extinct. Entire systems turned their eyes away, convinced the humans were finished. But in the shadows, scattered humans began to move. Scientists hid their research. Pilots and soldiers fled to uncharted planets. Leaders like Elena worked tirelessly to coordinate resistance, ensuring that human knowledge, culture, and spirit were preserved. Elena knew the Xylar Dominion was watching, confident that humanity was finished. That overconfidence would be their weakness. Humanity had survived worse, and it would survive this. She looked out at the stars from the bridge of her ship, each pinprick of light a possible refuge, a new home, a place to rebuild. "We are not extinct," she whispered, almost to herself. "We are just beginning." And with that, the Aurora's Edge jumped into hyperspace, carrying with it the last hope of humanity. The galaxy believed humans were gone, but Elena knew the truth. Survival was only the first step. The fight was just beginning, and humanity had a fire inside it that no alien empire could ever extinguish. The stars stretched endlessly before her, a vast ocean of possibilities. Somewhere among them lay hidden worlds, secret colonies, and the scattered remnants of humanity. Elena's resolve hardened. For every life lost, for every woman executed, for every child orphaned, humanity would rise again. The Xylars might think they had won, but they had underestimated something no technology, no army, no empire could ever destroy: the indomitable will of the human spirit. The stars had become both sanctuary and battlefield for the remnants of humanity. After the devastation of the Xylar Dominion's initial assault, the survivors spread across the outer colonies, hiding in shadows, on barren worlds, and in abandoned stations. Humanity's numbers were reduced, but the human spirit, though scarred, refused to die. Commander Elena Voss traveled from system to system, coordinating the scattered survivors. Her ship, the Aurora's Edge, was no longer a symbol of power, but a lifeline. Every jump to a new colony brought the same grim reality: abandoned cities, destroyed fleets, and echoes of lives stolen. But among the ruins, there were signs of resilience. Communities had survived in secret, hiding in underground bunkers or on remote asteroids. On the icy world of Krymos, Elena convened a meeting of resistance leaders. The planet was a frozen wasteland, with winds that cut like blades and skies darkened by perpetual storms. Yet the human ingenuity that had once conquered star systems now thrived here. Hydroponic farms glowed beneath transparent domes. Hidden repair bays kept old freighters in flight. And in the shadowed streets, scouts and engineers moved quietly, preparing for the day they would strike back. Elena stood at the head of the table, her eyes scanning the faces of those who remained. Each of them had lost everything: family, friends, homes. And yet their resolve mirrored her own. "We cannot defeat the Xylars head-on," she began. "They are stronger, faster, and far more numerous than we are. But they have one weakness: arrogance. They think humanity is finished. They believe fear and terror will control us. They are wrong." A young engineer named Jaren, barely 25, raised his hand. "Commander, we have no fleet, barely any weapons. How can we fight them? They destroyed half our colonies, took millions. We're barely surviving." Elena's gaze softened but remained firm. Survival is the first step. Fighting comes next, and we are not defenseless. We have knowledge, creativity, and cunning. Every colony they destroyed, Every fleet they annihilated left clues, patterns, weaknesses. Humanity will exploit them. The first operation was small but symbolic. A team of scouts would infiltrate a Xylar supply convoy in the Riven Expanse, a sector the Dominion considered secure. The mission was simple: capture data, disrupt supplies, and prove that humans were not finished. The team moved like shadows. Human pilots, using old modified freighters, slipped past Xylar patrols, avoiding detection through clever tactics and quick thinking. The Xylars relied heavily on technology and brute force, but humans relied on creativity. In one daring move, the team mimicked the energy signature of an asteroid, tricking the Dominion sensors into ignoring their approach. The ambush was swift. The human team disabled the convoy's engines, captured critical data cores, and escaped before the Dominion could respond. It was a small victory, but its impact rippled across human colonies. News of the strike spread quietly, carried by encrypted transmissions. Survivors began to whisper, maybe humans were not finished. Elena analyzed the data herself, discovering patterns in the Xylar fleet's patrol routes, weaknesses in their supply lines, and even cracks in their communication networks. These small pieces of intelligence became weapons. Every bit of knowledge was a tool for survival, a spark for the fires of rebellion. Meanwhile, humans began forming alliances with alien species who had suffered under the Dominion's rule. Elena met with the Lyrians, a species of tall, elegant beings whose technology rivaled the Dominion's but whose population had been decimated. Many of the Lyrians were wary, fearing that humans could not survive. Elena understood their fear but offered a simple truth: we fight because we must. We survive because we will not accept defeat. Join us, and together we can reclaim the galaxy. Some Lyrians joined, bringing their advanced technology and tactical knowledge. Others provided refuge and trade, creating hidden networks that the Dominion could not penetrate. Humanity learned quickly that alliances were as important as weapons. By combining strengths, they could offset their weaknesses. Back on Krymos, Elena and her council worked tirelessly to coordinate these efforts. They trained pilots, repaired ships, and developed new tactics. The human resistance became a shadow force, small, mobile, and unpredictable. Unlike the Dominion, humans were adaptable. They learned from every mistake, innovated with every challenge, and fought not for conquest but for survival. One of the most significant breakthroughs came from Dr. Sarah Haldane, a scientist who had once worked in Solaria's leading research institute. She had salvaged Xylar technology from destroyed fleets and reverse-engineered it. Under her guidance, humans developed stealth drones capable of cloaking, signal disruptors that could scramble Dominion communications, and energy weapons tuned to exploit weaknesses in Xylar shields. The first major coordinated attack was planned carefully. Elena's fleet, though small, would strike at a Xylar outpost supplying energy and weapons to frontline fleets. The mission was dangerous. If the Dominion detected it early, humanity would be wiped out. But the risk was necessary. Humanity needed a victory, a sign that they were not extinct. As the Aurora's Edge led the fleet through the asteroid belt surrounding the outpost, tension filled the bridge. Every crew member knew the stakes. Elena addressed her officers. This is not just an attack. This is a message. We exist, we fight, and we will not be erased. The attack was precise. Using stealth drones, the humans disabled the outpost's defenses without triggering alarms. They then used modified freighters to deliver explosive charges to key energy conduits, crippling the Xylar operations. When the Dominion fleet responded, the humans had already vanished into the asteroid belt, leaving confusion and panic in their wake. The victory was small, but monumental. Across human colonies, hope began to stir. Survivors dared to dream again, to plan, to resist. Children whispered stories of Commander Elena Voss and the brave human pilots who struck fear into the heart of the Xylar Dominion. Humanity, though scattered and broken, was alive, and alive with purpose. Elena knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion would retaliate and the battles ahead would be harder. But she also knew something vital. Humans had something the Xylars could never understand: resilience, creativity, and an unbreakable will to survive. One night, as Elena stood on Krymos's icy surface looking up at the stars, she thought about the millions lost, the families destroyed, and the women who had been executed. Grief and rage mingled in her chest, but they fueled her resolve rather than weakening it. Humanity had been declared extinct, but that declaration was a lie. Humans were still here fighting in shadows, learning, growing stronger, and one day, Elena promised herself, humanity would rise from those shadows. They would not just survive, they would reclaim their place among the stars. The spark of rebellion had begun and nothing could extinguish it. As the first light of Kremos's distant sun crept across the frozen plains, humans across hidden colonies prepared. They repaired ships, trained new pilots, and studied the Dominion. Each day their confidence grew. Each small victory reminded them of what they could achieve. The Xylar Dominion had tried to erase humanity, to declare them extinct. But humans had learned a truth the Dominion could never comprehend. Survival is not just about numbers. It is about courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to give up. The galaxy had grown quiet after the first sparks of rebellion. To the Xylar Dominion, it seemed humanity had been scattered into dust, hiding in shadows too weak to challenge them again. But the humans were far from finished. In secret bases across remote systems, resistance cells coordinated their movements, building fleets from salvaged ships, training pilots in stealth and tactics, and gathering intelligence on the Dominion's operations. Commander Elena Voss oversaw the growing network from the bridge of the Aurora's edge. The flagship had become a hub of strategy, a nerve center for human resistance. On the holographic display, star systems blinked like fireflies, some under Dominion control, some liberated, and some neutral, but willing to hide humans. Elena's mind raced, mapping the next steps carefully. The Xylar supply line to the frontiers is weak at Sector T-17, reported Lieutenant Marr, pointing at the projection. We could strike there and disrupt fuel and weapons shipments. It would slow their expansion and give us an advantage. Elena nodded. Good. Prepare the strike team. This will be our first large-scale counterattack. It will not just be a raid, it will be a message. Humanity exists. Humanity fights. And the Dominion will know fear. Weeks of preparation followed. Pilots trained relentlessly. Engineers reinforced ships, and spies infiltrated Dominion communication networks. Humans used every advantage they had. Knowledge of local asteroid fields, hidden wormholes, and modified Xylar technology. Their numbers were small, but their strategy, ingenuity, and unpredictability were their greatest weapons. The night before the attack, Elena walked through the ship's corridors. The hum of engines and chatter of crew filled the space, but tension was palpable. Every person aboard the Aurora's edge knew the risks. Failure would mean annihilation. Success would be a turning point for all of humanity. A young pilot named Lyra approached Elena. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with determination. Commander, do you really think we can win? The Dominion has billions of soldiers. We're just a fraction of that. Elena placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We don't fight because we are the strongest, Lyra. We fight because we refuse to surrender. We adapt, we strike where they least expect. And we have something no empire can copy. Courage and unity. That is our advantage. The following morning, the human fleet jumped into the T-17 sector. Their approach was silent. Stealth drones scattered ahead, feeding false readings to the Dominion's sensors. When the Dominion fleet responded, it was too late. Human ships emerged from asteroid shadows, attacking supply vessels and energy transports with precise, coordinated strikes. Xylar commanders, used to unquestioned obedience and overwhelming firepower, were caught off guard. Their formations faltered as humans exploited weaknesses in their fleet patterns. Elena directed her forces like a master conductor, each maneuver precise and decisive. The battle raged for hours. Energy beams tore through space and ships twisted through asteroid fields to avoid fire. Human pilots, though outnumbered, relied on skill and cunning. One small squadron under Lyra's command lured a Dominion cruiser into a trap, disabling it with a combination of EMP charges and targeted attacks. Another human team sabotaged a fuel depot, causing massive explosions that echoed across the sector. The human victory was not without cost. Ships were lost, crews injured, and the psychological weight of battle pressed heavily on Elena. Yet when the battle ended, the Dominion had suffered its first significant defeat in centuries. Supply lines were shattered, fleets were damaged, and morale among human survivors surged. Elena addressed her crew after the battle. This is only the beginning. Today we proved that humanity can strike back. We may be few, but we are resilient, we are clever, and we are united. The Dominion thought they had destroyed us. They were wrong. Humanity lives, and we will continue to fight. News of the victory spread through hidden channels. Across secret colonies, humans whispered the story of T-17. Children no longer spoke only of loss and fear. Adults began to plan, train, and prepare. For the first time in years, hope had a tangible shape. Humanity was no longer a ghost hiding from the galaxy. It was a force stirring in the shadows, ready to rise. The Xylar Dominion, however, was not blind. They convened a council on their flagship, the Obsidian Throne. Alien commanders and strategists debated the humans' sudden resurgence. "How can a species declared extinct strike us with such precision?" demanded High Commander Xylaris. One strategist spoke cautiously. "They are adaptive. They learn quickly, strike with cunning. Perhaps underestimating them was a mistake." Xylaris slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Mistake? No, they are irrelevant. We will crush them completely. Deploy the fleets, hunt them across the stars, leave nothing behind." Elena, unaware of the council, was already preparing the next phase. Victory at T-17 had given them momentum, but humans knew the Dominion would retaliate with overwhelming force. They had to be ready. Secret shipyards repaired damaged vessels, scientists worked to improve weaponry, and scouts mapped Dominion patrols for future strikes. During this time, humanity also developed a network of intelligence agents. Humans who had once been ordinary civilians now risked their lives infiltrating Dominion outposts, learning fleet positions, sabotaging communications, and spreading misinformation. Every small victory increased pressure on the Dominion, forcing them to respond to humans rather than act freely. Elena's leadership inspired a generation of fighters. Young pilots, engineers, and soldiers joined the resistance, learning to rely on creativity and courage over brute strength. She emphasized that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology alone, but ingenuity, adaptability, and unity. One of the most daring missions came when a team of human pilots infiltrated the Dominion's supply hub on Zephyra, a planet once thought secure. Using cloaked ships and advanced hacking techniques, they disabled the planet's defense grid, seized critical energy reserves, and escaped with minimal losses. The mission shocked the Dominion, forcing them to acknowledge that humans were no longer weak prey but active hunters. Back on Krymos, Elena reviewed the progress. The rebellion was spreading, quietly but surely. Every victory, no matter how small, strengthened the morale of human survivors. Entire colonies began to rise from the shadows, contributing ships, weapons, and personnel. The humans had become a coordinated mobile force, fast, intelligent, and unpredictable. Elena understood that the Dominion's overconfidence was their greatest weakness. They had expected humanity to crumble under fear and despair. Instead, humans had turned adversity into advantage, using guerrilla tactics, intelligence operations, and sheer daring to strike where the aliens were weakest. "Commander," Mar reported, "the Dominion is beginning to withdraw some forces from frontier sectors. They are consolidating. It seems our raids are forcing them to rethink their strategy." Elena's lips curved into a small smile. "Good, that is exactly what we want. They may be stronger, but we are smarter. Every move they make, we will anticipate. Every attack they plan, we will counter. Humanity does not bend. Humanity does not break. Humanity adapts." As the stars twinkled in the distance, Elena gazed out from the bridge of the Aurora's edge. She thought of the 9 million women lost, the families destroyed, and the colonies burned. Pain and grief weighed heavily on her heart, but they fueled her resolve. Humanity's fight was no longer only for survival. It was a fight for revenge, for justice, and for the right to exist. The galaxy had declared humans extinct, but humans had proven that extinction was impossible when courage, intelligence, and willpower remained. In the cold vacuum of space, humans began to rise, striking back against the Dominion with every tool they had: creativity, strategy, and unwavering determination. The first victories had been won, but the war was far from over. The Xylar Dominion would not surrender easily. The humans would face overwhelming fleets, terrifying weapons, and the cruelty of a merciless empire. Yet for the first time since the fall, humans believed something the Dominion could not destroy: hope. Elena turned to her officers, her eyes glowing with determination. "Today we strike. Tomorrow we plan. And one day the galaxy will know that humans are not just survivors. We are fighters. We are the storm they never saw coming. The Aurora's Edge jumped into hyperspace once again, carrying the human fleet toward the next frontier, toward the next battle, toward the growing fire of rebellion. The spark had ignited. Humanity was no longer hiding. Humanity was striking back. The victories at T-17 and Zephyra had ignited something in humanity that the Xylar Dominion could not ignore. For the first time in centuries, humans were not cowering, not hiding, not running. They were fighting back, and they were winning. Commander Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the Aurora's Edge, her gaze fixed on the holographic display of the outer rim. The Xylar Dominion had begun withdrawing forces from several sectors, overextending to respond to the growing human resistance. This was exactly what Elena had hoped for. The Empire's arrogance, its belief in humanity's extinction, had become its weakness. Reports from the frontier colonies, Lieutenant Marr said, stepping forward. Several settlements we contacted are rebuilding. They've joined the network. They have ships, weapons, and personnel ready to fight. They're asking for guidance. Elena's eyes softened with a mix of pride and resolve. Prepare a fleet. We'll move to liberate the colonies fully. Humanity is not just surviving and hiding anymore. It's time to show the Dominion that we exist in strength. The human fleet moved swiftly through the hidden jump routes, their ships cloaked and shielded by newly developed stealth technology. Every attack and raid had been a lesson, and the humans had learned quickly. Each pilot knew how to navigate asteroid belts, use debris fields as cover, and exploit weaknesses in the Dominion's formations. Each engineer had modified weapons to pierce Xylar shields, and every strategist understood how to predict enemy movements using the Dominion's own tactics against them. The first liberated colony was Ardath, a mining world that had been abandoned after the Dominion executed most of its population. Elena and her fleet arrived silently, disabling the Dominion's small garrison and restoring the colony's defenses. Civilians and surviving miners looked on with wide eyes as humans they thought lost to history stepped onto their planet. Families reunited. The colony's children, some of whom had never seen a real human fleet, gazed at the ships in awe. Elena addressed the people of Ardath. You are not alone. Humanity survives. Humanity fights. Today this colony is free, and tomorrow we will free the rest of our people. The Dominion may have tried to erase us, but we are still here, and we are stronger than they imagined. Word of Ardath's liberation spread like wildfire. Across the hidden human networks, news reached survivors on distant worlds. Hope surged. Underground settlements that had once cowered in fear now began organizing militias, repairing ships, and preparing to join the rebellion. Humanity was becoming a coordinated force, moving like shadows across the stars, striking where the Dominion least expected. The Xylar Dominion, once confident in its total control, began to falter. Reports of destroyed supply convoys, lost patrol fleets, and liberated colonies alarmed their high command. For the first time, the Dominion faced uncertainty. Their strategies, once flawless, were now countered at every turn. Elena knew the battle ahead would be even more dangerous. The Dominion would send overwhelming fleets, deploy new weapons, and attempt to crush humanity completely, but she also knew that the humans' greatest advantage was their ability to adapt, improvise, and learn. One of the most daring missions involved infiltrating the Dominion's communication hub on Clystra, a planet thought impregnable. Human agents, disguised as maintenance crews, penetrated the facility, installing signal disruptors and extracting critical intelligence. With this information, humans could predict fleet movements, sabotage supply lines, and plan their next strikes with precision. The mission on Clystra was risky. Several agents were captured or killed, but the operation's success proved that humans could challenge the Dominion even in its strongest positions. Every victory, every bold strike, chipped away at the illusion of the Dominion's invincibility. Meanwhile, in the outer colonies, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to upgrade human technology. Dr. Sarah Haldane, Elena's lead scientist, had discovered a way to reverse engineer Dominion energy shields, creating weapons that could bypass enemy defenses with devastating effect. Pilots trained relentlessly, learning to execute complex maneuvers and coordinated attacks. Humanity's ingenuity began to level the playing field, turning small fleets into formidable forces. Elena also sought alliances with other species oppressed by the Dominion. Many were initially wary of humans, fearing they were too small, too weak, or too reckless. But the humans' determination and clever victories convinced some to join the growing coalition. These new allies brought advanced technology, knowledge of Dominion tactics, and additional manpower. Together, the humans and their allies became a force the Dominion could not ignore. The next major target was a Dominion fortress on Varela, a planet that controlled critical supply lines for several sectors. Elena planned a strike that combined human fleet maneuvers, sabotage teams, and diversionary attacks. The operation would be the most complex mission humanity had attempted so far, but the risks were necessary. Victory at Varela could change the balance of power in the Outer Rim. The attack began with diversionary strikes, drawing Xylar forces away from key defenses. Human stealth ships slipped past sensors, disabling energy grids and communications. Ground teams infiltrated the fortress, planting explosives and sabotaging weapon systems. The Dominion forces fought fiercely, but the humans' strategy, coordination, and adaptability gave them the edge. By the end of the battle, Varela was in human hands. The Dominion's supply lines were disrupted, and their forces were in disarray. For the first time, humans had delivered a strategic blow that shook the Empire itself. Colonies across the Outer Rim celebrated, and morale surged. Humanity was no longer merely surviving. They were becoming a power to be reckoned with. Elena stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, watching reports of liberated systems and Dominion retreats flood the displays. The Xylar Dominion's arrogance had turned into panic. They had underestimated humans, and now they faced a species that refused to bend, that adapted, that struck with intelligence and courage. "Commander," Mar said, "the Dominion is sending a counterattack. A fleet is moving from the central sectors to retake Varela." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Let them come. They will find that humans are not the prey they imagined. We will hold Varela, and we will strike again. Humanity's time has come. The coming battles would be fierce. The Dominion would bring overwhelming force, and many lives would be lost. But humanity had learned a vital truth. Courage, ingenuity, and unity could overcome even the most powerful enemy. Each colony liberated, each supply line disrupted, each victory against the Dominion strengthened the human spirit. The galaxy began to notice the change. Systems that had once feared the humans now whispered their names in admiration. Survivors from lost colonies began to believe in the possibility of reclaiming their homes. The legend of Commander Elena Voss and the human fleet spread like wildfire, inspiring hope across the stars. Elena understood that the fight was far from over. The Dominion would not surrender easily, and their weapons of war were devastating. But humanity had something no empire could ever destroy: resilience, creativity, and the will to survive. The outer colonies were secure, the network of resistance was growing, and humanity's allies were multiplying. The Xylar Empire was beginning to feel the cracks in its foundation. As Elena gazed at the stars from the bridge, she thought of the millions lost. The women executed, the cities burned, and the families destroyed. She felt their absence keenly, but she did not despair. Humanity was alive, stronger than ever, and every victory brought them closer to reclaiming the galaxy. The empire that had once declared humans extinct was now shaken, and in the cold darkness of space, the spark of rebellion burned brighter than any Dominion fleet could extinguish. Elena turned to her officers, her voice steady and commanding. "We fight not just to survive, but to reclaim what was taken. Humanity will not bow, will not break, and will not vanish. The Xylar Dominion will learn that declaring us extinct was their greatest mistake. Now we rise. Now we fight. Now we take back the stars." The human fleet jumped into hyperspace once more, heading toward the next target, ready to liberate colonies, defeat Dominion fleets, and expand the reach of humanity's rebellion. The galaxy was awakening to a truth that the Dominion had ignored. Humans were not extinct, they were unstoppable. The galaxy was no longer quiet. The Xylar Dominion, once certain of humanity's extinction, was now on edge. Every system they had controlled in the Outer Rim had been touched by human resistance. Colonies that were once abandoned now thrummed with life. Their fleets repaired, their defenses strengthened, their people ready to fight. Humanity had risen from the shadows, and the Dominion could no longer ignore it. Commander Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, her eyes scanning the stars. She had spent years coordinating the scattered remnants of humanity, training them, guiding them and inspiring them. What had begun as survival in the shadows had become a full-scale rebellion. Now they would take the fight to the heart of the Xylar Empire. Intel reports show the Dominion is concentrating its fleets at the Omega Sector, Lieutenant Marr said. It's their central command. If we strike there, we could force them to retreat. Elena nodded. Then that is our next move. Gather all available forces. Humans, allies, every fleet capable of flight, we move as one. This is the final push. Humanity will not just survive. We will reclaim our place in the galaxy. The journey to Omega Sector was long and dangerous. Dominion patrols moved through hyperspace corridors, seeking to intercept the human fleet. But humanity had learned to anticipate, to outmaneuver, and to strike with precision. Using cloaked ships, stealth drones, and false signals, the human armada advanced undetected, ready for the battle that would decide the fate of countless worlds. As the fleets emerged from hyperspace, the Dominion was waiting. Thousands of Xylar warships, each larger and more deadly than the last, formed a massive blockade. Their energy weapons glowed like molten metal, their shields flickered with alien patterns, and their commanders moved with ruthless efficiency. The humans, though far outnumbered, were undeterred. They had fought impossible odds before and survived. Today would be no different. Elena's voice echoed through the fleet's communications. Remember everything we have learned. Strike with cunning. Move with unity. Protect each other. And above all, remember who we fight for. The millions lost, the colonies destroyed, the families torn apart. Humanity will not vanish. Humanity will rise. The battle began with a flash of energy. Dominion ships fired volleys that could destroy entire planets. Human ships twisted and darted through space, using asteroids and debris fields as cover, luring enemy vessels into traps. Lyra, now a seasoned pilot, led a squadron that disabled a massive energy cruiser by targeting its weak points identified through stolen Dominion schematics. Simultaneously, human sabotage teams infiltrated orbital stations, planting disruptors and explosives that crippled the Dominion's central communication network. Chaos rippled through the enemy lines. Xylar fleets used to precise commands and absolute obedience faltered when their communication links failed. Orders went unanswered, formations broke, and confusion spread like wildfire. Elena directed the battle with precision. Every strike, every maneuver, every sacrifice was calculated. The humans' adaptability and ingenuity began to tip the balance. Dominion ships, despite their superior numbers, could not anticipate the humans' creativity. They were relentless, but the humans were smarter, faster, and more united than ever. On the ground of key Dominion planets, human and allied forces liberated colonies and freed captured populations. Survivors joined the fight, swelling human numbers. Factories that had produced weapons for the Dominion were now producing for humanity. Engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged fleets and upgrade weapons. Every liberated world became a new base, a new advantage, a step closer to victory. The turning point came when Elena's fleet executed a daring maneuver around the Dominion's flagship, the Obsidian Throne. Using a combination of stealth ships and energy disruptors, they penetrated the flagship's defenses. Elena herself led the boarding team, infiltrating the enemy command center. Fighting through corridors of alien soldiers, humans planted explosives that would destroy the command core. High Commander Xylaris, seeing his flagship under attack, realized too late that humanity had learned from every previous battle. His empire, once unshakable, was now vulnerable. Orders came too late, ships faltered, and panic spread among the ranks. Humanity had forced the Dominion into chaos, and in that moment, victory became possible. The explosives detonated, and the Obsidian Throne erupted in flames. The shockwave disabled nearby ships, and the Dominion fleet began a disorganized retreat. Across the Omega Sector, Dominion forces fell back in confusion. Humanity had struck a decisive blow. Elena watched from the bridge, her eyes steady but filled with emotion. "We've done it," she whispered. "We've taken back our future." The victory sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Human colonies were fully liberated. Survivors celebrated on worlds that had once been forgotten. The Dominion's grip was shattered, and its empire began to crumble from within. Systems that had followed the Xylar command in fear now switched allegiance, seeing that humanity was alive, strong, and unstoppable. Elena convened the leaders of the liberated worlds. Together they established a council to coordinate governance, defense, and trade. Humanity would not only survive, they would thrive. New fleets would explore, new colonies would be built, and the galaxy would witness the return of a species once declared extinct. As celebrations spread across the stars, Elena reflected on the journey. Humanity had faced annihilation, had lost millions, and had been declared extinct. Yet through courage, intelligence, and unity, they had defied impossible odds. The millions of women who had been executed were remembered, honored in every liberated colony and in every victory. Their memory fueled the fight. Dr. Sarah Haldane approached Elena on the Aurora's edge, smiling softly. "Commander, humanity has proven something no empire could ever destroy. Our will to survive. We've turned the impossible into reality." Elena nodded. "It's not just survival, Sarah, it's triumph. We have rebuilt what was lost, defended what remains, and shown the galaxy that humanity cannot be erased. This is only the beginning. We will lead, inspire, and ensure that no tyrant can ever declare us extinct again." The stars above seemed brighter now, as if celebrating humanity's resurgence. Across the galaxy, survivors rebuilt, fleets were strengthened, and colonies flourished. Humanity had learned a profound truth. Their greatest weapon was not technology or numbers, but courage, unity, and the refusal to surrender. In the following months, humans explored newly liberated systems, reclaiming lost knowledge, recovering artifacts, and establishing alliances with alien species that had once been oppressed. Together, these coalitions worked to ensure the galaxy would never again allow a tyrannical empire to dominate through fear and extermination. Commander Elena Voss, standing on the bridge of her flagship, looked out at the stars with quiet satisfaction. The galaxy had declared humanity extinct. Humanity had risen and shattered that declaration with every strike, every act of bravery, every liberated colony. The Xylar Dominion had been forced to retreat, fractured from within, and would no longer terrorize the stars unchecked. "We are alive," Elena said softly. "We are strong.
We are human.
And we will never be forgotten." The galaxy, once silent and fearful, now hummed with the sound of life, hope, and renewal. Humanity had endured, fought, and risen stronger than ever. They were no longer prey, no longer scattered remnants. They were a force that would lead, protect, and inspire.